Welcome everyone, this is Danny and Karl with Get Wisdom, and today we're going to continue with the channeling series. Karl is going to channel Dick Sutphen, and this is kind of like a sequel to the radio show that was done here recently. And Brian, the other owner at GetWisdom.com, was very interested in Dick and read some books about him, and he so kindly supplied us with the questions that we're going to use for today's channeling. So a shout out to Brian, a big thanks for that. This is going to smooth our way and help me out personally with my schedule. So it's very, very much appreciated. And so Dick Sutphen was kind of a spiritual seeker, someone who looked into a lot of different areas. He was known as a do-it-yourself approach to spirituality. And there's a radio show that Karl and Brian did recently where they kind of got into the first phase of questions, or first series of questions for Dick as a light being. So Karl and I will have a little discussion about the channeling series in general and what we're up to here, and then Karl will channel Dick Sutphen. So thanks everybody for joining us, and thank you, Karl.
Yes, very welcome, and thanks to you for hosting this and being a part of this wonderful enterprise. And to all of you who are watching, a hearty thanks, because you're why this is happening. It's an attempt to reach you and share with you what we're learning and what we're all about. And we think it's very important. It's the most important thing, in fact, that humanity has ever been involved in and will be involved in. And it's our purpose. We were created to be seekers and change agents to solve the problem of evil, no small thing. And to do that, we not only have to have our wits about us, but know stuff. We need to be experts, in reality and in truth, because the biggest weapon of the darkness is misinformation, causing the wrong impressions to be made and um, false information to be embraced,
False beliefs.
and beliefs, yes,
Yeah.
to corrupt people deeply within. And if you could do that, you don't need to have a weapon like a gun or an army. You can make people do your bidding. And it's entirely hands off. You can do it at a distance. So this is what's going on, in fact. So anyone to me who's interested in the mind is someone I respect and at least want to get a sense of, because that is the battleground.
Yeah.
Who controls the mind determines everything else, because that's, the arena of free will and everything that emanates. If people can be manipulated to surrender their free will to a nation state or a cause, or even just an alliance with someone in a marriage that might be someone who wants to really exploit them because maybe it's all they're capable of doing, to have a relationship is exploit people and suck them in. And if they have a vulnerability, that's how they get a partner in life. It's kind of a victim. It's a master-slave relationship in some respects. So this happens on all levels, and what steps into that vacuum will determine which direction it goes. Does it get worse or to get better? So the whole field of investigation into how the mind operates, first of all, is a very loaded arena. It's closely guarded by the interlopers because it's their playground.
Right.
That's what they want from us. They want to control our minds.
Yeah.
And so anyone who comes along and wants to probe the mind, how to help people solve their problems and deal with the inner conflicts and so on, they're going to be considered an enemy of those who want to control us.
Right. And we're enemies anyway.
Yeah.
Or subjects, if you will. I mean, kind of like the relationship between human and cows. It's very similar. Except we don't despise cows. They despise humans.
Right, yeah. Right. So I don't want to get into a big lecture here. We'll let our subject today.
Yeah, but it's important that we set the stage. Why Dick?
Well, yes,
and it turns out he was missing things, important things.
Yes.
In this discovery, and up to recently, we've been missing things. There's a lot of things we didn't know. You didn't know. You were investigating healing early on. All of a sudden, there's this interloper ET issue that was started off as 5% of your clients having some type of an ET interaction, and slowly over time, as we did the channeling series and made more inquiries and whatnot, it turns out it was the elephant in the living room.
Yes,
by far.
It's the central issue facing humanity, and it explains most of what has gone wrong with the world all through history. It started from the evil, from the fallout of the angelics and their cohort under Lucifer. It's described in the scriptures. And they've contaminated all the living beings in our galaxy. And this started with extraterrestrial races before we even existed. So they are here now, the ETs, because that's what they do. They're predators, and they march around and control worlds and savage them, destroy them at their whim. And we're having to reckon with this. Our job is to fix it. Well, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Well, we need divine help, but also we need to be able to use our minds to help learn more. And that's what I do as a channeler. I'm using my mind in a special way so I can make a bridge to the divine level and receive direct communication. Most people can't do that. And so God is closed off. You can talk to God and God will hear you. but you can't hear God directly. So this puts us at a big disadvantage if that is our lifeline.
Mm-hmm.
So we're coming from behind and we're in the dark and all of that. So I started out to become a hypnotist after many, many years doing drug discovery research as a pharmacologist and realizing its limitations and knowing there's so much more that is being missed, and especially about the mind and emotion and mental peculiarities, aberrations, and so on. And I became a board certified consulting hypnotist, took the training and many courses from the top experts to learn everything that I could about how to exploit the phenomenon of hypnosis to probe deeper parts of us and see what's going wrong and explore ways to intervene. And that led to everything that has followed, that starting point, because it led me to the paranormal, which I'd always been fascinated in, but never experienced much personally that I realized was actually paranormal and not coincidence. I discounted things all along the way or minimized them. And so people who can get into the mind can make things happen. And it's how you do it, what level of the mind you're on, and all of that truly matters.
Right.
So this subject today was a pioneer in his own right in looking at the intersection of spirituality and the workings of the mind, and could have done more, but that's true for everyone because we're really dealing with limited knowledge.
Right.
All
and
of
typically
us.
people that have those similar interests, they're kind of fighting against a groundswell. There's so many elements out there in the world that are working against that type of inquiry. Like you were saying earlier, that
Yes.
you're what the Russians have a saying, like the tallest grass gets cut first. So if you're poking your head up above the crowd and looking around, be careful because you're the tallest grass. So he lived till 83. He was able to pursue his interests. He had some tragedies that occurred in his life, but he kept going. And a lot of people with similar life plan as his, they I think in some cases, I would say the majority of them don't ever get that far. They're usually taken out by the time they're in their 20s. Something's gone haywire and they're out of the game. They may not be killed, but something else will get them, and you'll never hear from them again.
Well, the whole history of hypnotism has been really a very dramatic record of near misses and amazing things that seem to sort of die away and become ignored and left behind. And there's a reason that happens, and it's because it's managed to turn out that way.
Yeah.
And Sigmund Freud is a good example. He learned about hypnosis and explored it, researched it as a physician, and saw amazing things. But then he gave it up. He turned away in favor of his so-called talking cure,
right,
which became psychoanalysis, which is largely ignored today because it doesn't produce robust benefits and becomes a kind of way of life for people and sort of like having a paid friend kind of thing. And I don't mean to be pejorative, but
no, that's my job.
But it doesn't reach deep levels of the mind. So, but see, this was a missed opportunity. This is back in the 1800s when Freud was doing this.
Yeah.
We could have been where we are today not too long thereafter if he had been able to drive that to a deeper level of awareness.
Right. And there's many, many, many other characters from his era and prior to that were kind of barking up the wrong tree and got sidetracked into some other areas of inquiry that were interesting or whatever, but in terms of healing and fulfilling the human mission, missed the mark entirely. What we said earlier is what this is all about. Humans are created to solve the problem of evil. Wow. So maybe we should go ahead and get started here. We got 6 questions. They're nice, long, meaty questions, and it's likely to be a long channeling. So let's see what he's got to say.
Okay, so we will go on a grand tour of the psyche, and by someone who really made significant contributions, and we'd love to hear from people like that because they had skin in the game. Yeah. They have a karmic standing, if you will, to speak out and perhaps share revelations about things that even the divine wouldn't necessarily do, because the divine kind of is this independent, standing on the side, observer and launching pad for us to use, but not directing things. So we're in charge.
Yeah.
So like it or not.
Okay.
We need the human voice. So I'll get in the state of consciousness I need to reach out to him and put safety around the work, which is critical because most channelers are being sidelined and don't know it. In talking with imposters, this is a huge problem in the arena of all psychic work, and the mediums and channelers can be duped. And so I just want to make that known to people. So be careful with all information coming from channel sources. It's just one of those pitfalls. And the best one can do, as far as I know, and it's how I do my work, is to partner with the divine and ask for divine oversight to ensure accuracy, to get to the target you intend to, and not another party, and to keep it safe from corruption and manipulation.
Right.
So it's authentic and valid. And who better than God to do that? And you have to believe. It's not a perfect system. It requires high level of belief and belief in the self to be worthy. And those are the 2 requirements always for a divine intervention. But I think it's the best you can do. You can't get human level assistance with something like this, because the mind is its own energy, and it's boundless. It's non-local. It can go anywhere and everywhere. All right, so I will reach out to him, and he will announce when he's on board.
Okay.
This is Dick Sutphen speaking.
Thank you for joining us. You managed, in spite of living a life largely contemptuous of naked authority, to live to the respectable age of 83, and by all appearances died peacefully. It was reported that you had some serious health concerns following the theft of your wealth and intellectual property some 9 years earlier. Was your transition to the light successful? The concept of purgatory and limbo were not topics you ever appeared to have much interest in, or even respect for. What is your perspective now, and what would you have done differently if given the chance?
My passing was a deeply troubled one. It was in part the fear of what might be coming, which I was leaning towards believing would be nothingness, but instead was met with terror and torment. I was set upon. Even as I emerged from my body as a spirit energy, I was greeted by a flock of demonic beings, energetically, not as forms like a living person. But keep in mind, I was just a consciousness, naked and alone, which is true for all who pass on. After all, you leave your body behind, so you lack all your usual senses and have nothing but your thoughts. But if your thoughts are hearing voices and you are being mocked and threatened, and you have a beginning of sensations coming to you as though you had a body you cannot see or feel, but receive the discomfort and even pain of tortures inflicted on you. Your experience will be a living nightmare that is all too real, immediate, and disparaging. That was an intentional outcome that was arranged to happen because I was a seeker, as you rightly point out. I dedicated my life to exploring the unknown or little known, to plumb the depths and draw what I could in meaning, and with the aim to help people do better. This is the one thing that irks your overseers more than anything else. They encourage people to embrace illogical, superstitious, and quasi-religious precepts, to join movements, to follow gurus of all kinds, because they view that all as useless waste of time and a source of amusement at how readily people accept things from their gullibility and expend their energy on fantasy. Someone who endeavors to genuinely offer a solution that has a robust ability to change things for the better is going against the grain, flaunting the superior authority of the interlopers who truly run the world. They don't want you out there helping and healing when their aim is to make people suffer. You're going against the program. It is an inversion of law and order. When those truly in charge want lawlessness and disorder, someone wanting to set things right, create equanimity, a calm, orderly world, a sharing, and a living in harmony, they're anti-establishment, anti-government, anti-authority, because the true entities that deserve those labels are in the hands of the interlopers, who are demonic beings in terms of their level of depravity. They are psychopaths because they are spiritually empty. And that is the end result of surrendering spirituality. It is the same as being a physical being and needing to breathe. You can decide one day, I'm done with all that. I don't need to breathe anymore. I don't need oxygen. But you will die if somehow you bring that about by moving into an airless enclosure. That contrast and experiment can be arranged to do such a thing by almost anyone. This is why people do not question they need air to live. Spirituality is more elusive. It is a deeper, but also a more remote connection and force of energy, nonetheless flowing through you all the time. But it does not signal its presence per se. It doesn't shout at you. It doesn't wave signs in your face to get attention. It doesn't call you out when you are about to make a misstep. And the good feelings you have come from above, but you are allowed to claim them and to claim it as yours, because you are embracing those notions and reveling in them and employing them to live your life in a way that serves both you and others around you. This is a divine blessing, but it's a divine energy you are utilizing in the act. If you decide to sever your connection to the divine, love will end for you. You will not feel love. You will be unable to give love. You will not be able to even imagine love having a benefit, and will view it with cynicism and suspicion if others still exhibit that strange phenomenon you can no longer relate to. What is left is a vacuum, and that will be filled by only the need to survive and to have power as a way of gaining some kind of reward for the self. Your ego is a part of the human equipment you are supplied with, but does not come from the divine realm. When you are only alone with your ego, you will have a very lonely and isolated existence, because it offers nothing for others other than your value to them as a potential show of force if they start to think along similar lines and no longer value love and joy and true happiness and contentment from being in divine alignment and bathed in a divine glow of loving support. My death took me away from humanity into the void. And I was solely in the presence of beings who think that way, that it's all about the power they hold. And they delight in tormenting others, dragging them down, and making them suffer, as it brings more energy for them to steal and use for themselves. This is a dog-eat-dog, highly savage existence that is the height of depravity. I was a target because I was a humanitarian. And that is the reason I was dealt with such savagery. I never had a chance. There were light callers sent to help me, but there was no ability on my part to even recognize that happening, because I was subsumed by this struggle, seemingly for my very life and existence, because I was still thinking like a human, that they are going to kill me. This was not a question of logic. This was a question of being in a world of hurt and fear like none I had ever experienced. I tell you these things because you are asking sincerely and know already this is a risk, a road hazard, that having taken the courageous step of incarnating in the human world of uncertainty and struggle, you may have a hard time getting back again to the light. When you come down on faith that it will work out, you are exhibiting great courage, because there are no guarantees. You will retain your faith and be able to return easily to the heavenly realm when eventually your time runs out as a physical human incarnated being. Many do not return, at least without a huge delay. There are millions of souls trapped in limbo as we speak, who are among a mass of humanity being used as an energy source by demonic former angelic spirits who have no other means of survival than to be a kind of energy vampire. So this is the struggle you are a part of. And we want you to know that if you can turn to faith in the Almighty and prepare yourself for that eventuality, you can be safe on your return to the light. I was uncertain about my future. That is what put me at risk, because humans have been put in charge of their experience. And this is quite absolute. You hold within you the power to reach out to the divine. But if you do not think to do this, you will be on your own, unless someone speaks up for you. And that is what happened for me, that I was rescued from this plight by the loving attention of those in the living, and using the Lightworker healing protocol devised by your channel. We say this with great appreciation, because this is the culmination of the journey I was on to find a way to a deep understanding of cause and effect at all levels of human experience. I was on the right track, and this will be explored more as we proceed.
Okay, thank you. On the back of your book, Radical Spirituality, was this blue bubble blurb. Quote, "It's time someone spoke up, a grounded spiritual alternative to the wishful thinking of angel and alien communications," unquote. Given that over 90% of channel material is from entities misrepresenting their identities and intent, this is an admirably defiant assertion. Yet, it also appears that you threw out the baby with the bathwater. Regarding UFOs and alien abductions, you wrote, quote, I make it a practice not to waste my time or energy on something I can do nothing about. Parentheses, abductions, unparentheses, unquote. What is your current perspective?